Hello, welcome to my channel. So I want us to talk about the issue of the revolt against the US dollar, and specifically how the speech by our own President William Ruto signified the revolt against the dollar by African countries. So we have seen that since, I think, for the past few years, many countries have been leaving the dollar, and this was really heightened when Saudi Arabia refused to sell oil to America because the US dollar used to be backed by Saudi Arabian oil. So now we have other groups like BRICS, which are planning to form their own currency. I don't know whether African countries too want to form their own currency. I don't know, but I know that BRICS, they have formed their own currency and they'll launch it soon. And many countries, even Egypt and South Africa and others, they have joined that currency, even UAE and all others. So when William Ruto made that speech, it actually shocked the West, because people are assuming that William Ruto specifically belongs to America, and not the BRICS. So that speech actually shocked many people, and it symbolized that Africa has stopped being a puppet. Even Africa is considering other options, or like maybe joining the BRICS, I don't know, among others. So currently there's a serious revolt against the dollar. So let's look at this short story here.
The dollar is facing a revolt. The world knows it as the king of currencies, but the dominance of the dollar is now under threat. More and more countries are looking for alternatives, and China's yuan is emerging as a clear challenger. Beijing is pursuing a string of deals. The latest one is with Brazil. Brazil and China are ditching the dollar. From now on, they'll use their own currencies for trade. So China is pushing the yuan. What about the Indian rupee? It's not far behind. The Indian rupee is also emerging as a serious contender. And why are these trends significant? Because currencies drive commerce. The dollar's dominance gives the US an outsized influence on the global economy, and a shift away from the dollar will only hurt America.
So we have seen that of late in Kenya, we are having serious issues. The dollar is becoming very scarce and its value is rising, mostly because there are people who are holding it. Some people are hiding the dollar, and that makes it even more expensive. So maybe that is what may have pushed Ruto and other economists in Kenya to consider other alternatives.
It will also hasten the rebalancing of the global economy. In the next few minutes, we'll look at this trend and where this is going. First, the events in Brazil. Brazil announced the deal yesterday, and it did not come out of the blue. The agreement had been in the works for a while. A preliminary pact was signed in the month of January. It laid the foundations of the final agreement, and it's a fairly simple deal. Earlier, Brazil and China used the US dollar for trade. Now they will deal in their native currencies. China will use the yuan, and Brazil will use the Brazilian reais. How does it help? It will save costs. Look at the official statement from Brazil. This is what it says. The expectation is that this will reduce costs, promote even greater bilateral trade, and facilitate investment. China is Brazil's biggest trading partner. Last year, the bilateral trade was worth over $150 billion.
Yeah, so many countries are ditching the dollar. And I'm sorry that this network is very poor right now. We're having that issue of the dollar being dumped by Brazil, China, India. But the one by Kenya is what made it got many people unawares. And we shall see that speech by Ruto later. But you find that currently the dollar is being dumped by many countries. Even countries like Zimbabwe, they're opting to buy, to exchange. Let's say when they want to buy oil, they pay with their own gold. You see that? Not the dollar. Because previously, they were paying with the dollar. But now because they have gold, Zimbabwe, they'll pay to their own gold. Ghana, they're saying they'll pay for oil with their own cocoa and even gold, which they have. So the dollar is being dumped. So So there's a not just Africa, but a global revolt against the dollar. Very serious.
For the people who work numbers, I am giving you free advice that those of you who are holding dollars, you surely might go into losses. You better do what you must do, because this market is going to be different in a couple of weeks. And secondly, we, through the central bank, we are having conversations to reinstate the interbank exchange market that has since not worked. And I am happy that the players in that sector, including our banks, are coming forward and they are participating, and they are working with the central bank so that we can again take charge of our market, and that it is not allowed to be distorted by brokers. I'm told the only place where brokers are accepted is at the exchange. Anywhere else, they are banned. And so I just want to assure those in Kenya who are facing challenges of access to dollars, that we have taken steps to ensure that dollar availability in the next couple of weeks is going to be very different, because our fuel companies will now be paying for fuel in Kenya shillings. They do not have to look for dollars every month, because we have done what we must do as government to ensure that we ease the burden on people who want to realize their returns in dollars. And I was being told by the chairman of NSC, so Mr. Chairman, you have nothing to worry about.
So it is believed that many people, brokers in Kenya, they're hiding US dollars, they're holding it, just like people like holding sugar and even maize flour and other things to make the price go high. So in Kenya, there are some guys who are bought the US dollar and they're hiding it. Now Kenya has to buy oil and other things which are being imported using the US dollar. That makes Kenya to pay more, much more. And that affects the economy of an already overburdened economy of Kenya. So the speech by Ruto, so personally, I'm not a fan of Ruto at all. In fact, I support, I'm on the side of Azimio. But the speech by Ruto was actually very, very good. It shows that Africa too, they can articulate their own policies independently, away from the West, without being bullied. So that speech shows that an African president is able to consider other options in the global economy, away from the US dollar, which used to be the world's reserve dollar, or the world's reserve currency. So that speech shocked many people, and I think the West was surprised. So currently like Egypt have begun. They have already signed to join the BRICS currency. So if Kenya also joins, many other countries, all of Africa, will join the BRICS currency. And maybe later, they may also join BRICS. So the US dollar is under revolt. People are leaving it. Not just Africa, but all over the world. So BRICS is a new kid on the block. They are having their summit this year in South Africa, where Ramaphosa will become the BRICS president for this year. And I think he'll invite many African countries to join and even apply for membership. So we are living in very interesting times. And I think, like Ruto said, they are planning something. Kenya is planning something. I don't know how they'll manage to import things with the Kenyan shillings. or whether Africans want to have their own currency too, African currency, which is a good step forward because Africa has got resources. Africa too can have their own currency because most of the world's gold, oil, gas is in Africa, among other minerals which Congo has, even diamond, etc. So Africa is able to have their own currency. And I'm sure even this is nothing new, because even guys like Mandela, Gaddafi talked about it some time back. So I don't know what Ruto meant, but time will tell. But what I can say, that was a good speech for Kenya and even for Africa. So that's my video for today.